My name is Zenobia. I am from Greece and I have spent most of my life, more than half, I'm 85, and I have spent 60 years in this country, in which is USA. I was born in Tripolis to a family of 7 children, and I was the middle one. There were 3 older and 3 younger, and I don't know. They say that this position in a family is very good because you learn from the older and you have more compassion with the little ones. Well, the roots of my dad are from Andros. My daddy was Mendis and Lavdas, and he married a woman from Chios, but she was living in Athens, and they fell in love. Ο παπάς δίδασκε τη μαμά κιθάρα και έτσι παντρευτήκανε. They got married in Athens, στον Άγιο Διονύση, και ζήσανε ορισμένα χρόνια και μετά γεννήθηκε το πρώτο παιδί, το οποίο πέθανε. The first child died, and the other child, Andreas, and he was transferred to the Tripolis in the academy. It was the academy where you become a teacher, finishing it. And he was for 2 years a student. And my daddy was responsible of the instruments of mandolin, guitar, violin, the string instruments. And χορδά στην Ελλάδα τα λέμε. We say these things. And we had a lovely time. A very, very, very nice life. Respected by the neighbors. My mother was a very obedient woman. Try the children to be clean and to appear in the society. After all, the father, he was a professor, so you had to be respectful. In Maraslia Παιδαγωγική Academia, and came to Athens, and it was a shocking experience because we were a lot of children in a family. You didn't see that in Athens. And going to school and living in a neighborhood that they are rich children. When I went to school, they said to me, we have to go through the doctors. They had to examine the kids. And I was afraid to show my underpants because they were different than the other children. And I called, and I went upstairs to my dad crying and saying, I don't want to do that. He said, you have to do it because this is good for your health. We have to know, how is your health, how you're going to grow. That was my first bad experience. The second bad experience, it was to play in the Xameni Square. It was a little park that we used to go and play. And this girl, there were swings. And it seems to me, as I was swinging, she saw my underpants. And she comes around when it was over, because I was protecting always my brother, Rolando's. And says to me, "Who do you think you are?" "I don't think I am. I'm his sister. I am his sister." And she said to me, "You have not right to talk to me, because your vrakakin is from Aladza, which means that my mother used to make underpants, but not with a very expensive material, which was cotton, okay? And your mother cleans them, and your mother irons them." Well, that I felt strong again, and I went again, and I said, "My mother said that we are good people, and my mother did it, so I'm not a bad person because I'm wearing Aladza underwear." I said, "Your mother is a plistra, woman that washes, she goes to the families and washes hair. I go and I give her μια γροθιά."
Punched her?
I guess. I mean, she talked about my mother.
That's right, she did deserve it.
And the first time I thought maybe we come to a new environment, that's how you're supposed to be dressed. But just to tell things against my mother. So this woman, παιδιά, I don't think she ever, this girl actually, went back to this place to play. They were afraid.
Good. Yeah. They don't mess with them. And they should be. Yeah.
So, and then unfortunately the war started. And like any child who has been, not child alone, but any human being that has been a war knows what it is. It's horrible. Not love, just me against you. And it was a horrible time. A horrible time. And now, as an older person, I hear the word brotherly love. And I question that, because when we were hungry, the bread, it was separated. The boys were eating more than us. And
Really?
we will have fight. Why you are giving to him more? The boys, they took more bread than the girls. Teenage brothers, Andreas and Ilya. And my father, Kostakis, did a beautiful thing. He understood. He didn't try to explain to us, "You done this to your brother, and he's a bigger boy, and because he's big, he can do this." None of this. He made a zigarιά,
A scale.
a scale. He made a scale, so the bread was equal for everybody. No fights. No, you see how my dad acted to solve the problem by good, how am I going when I'm hungry to understand that this guy is, in anaptexy, in growing up. And that things, they have stigmatized my life. And also the nights of the sirens will be, we have to, when there were attacks, επιδρομές, the aeroplanes, we had to get up It was 1 o'clock at night, midnight to 3 o'clock, to go to the shelters, the shelter homes. I remember shaking cold. It was not enough the fear that we had with this, the επιδρομές λέγονται.
Raids.
Yeah, yes, the raids. The guys, Andreas, Elias, and other neighborhood kids, they will go and with their something heavy on the wall, boom. I said, oh my God, now the bombs are with the, they were scaring us.
Nothing important. Jenny was talking about the air raids and how we're all running and the sirens will come up and we all run to protect ourselves. We didn't know if they were going to bomb. What we did not know is that the Germans had made an agreement not to bomb ancient cities. Athens was one of them, Rome was another. So they did not bomb Athens inside where we were, but they bombed all over around, like Piraeus, which is a suburb of Athens. It was, and also a port,
destroyed.
which was bombed. That's all I wanted to say. That's why you escaped.
Okay.
I was 15 and we were liberated. I remember those happy moments and celebrating with very little. The economic situation always it was low, but it was a sort of, what are you doing tonight? Let's all get together and put a little music and dance, or the boys will play the guitar, you will go to the parties. It was fun. It was fun. We had a problem of the fashion then, and neither my sister or I, they could afford to buy as expensive clothes. And I remember my mother made dress for us from the curtain.
Yeah, like the
Like Scarlett O'Hara.
like Maria von Trapp.
Yeah.
From the launch article.
And of course, to wear a dress from a curtain, of course it is see-through.
So you were very popular.
So wait a minute. I used to go and buy ice cream, and I will see the people were looking at me. And I said, why, what is funny? I couldn't understand why they were looking. You see? And I understood what was the reason, and believe me, I will be wearing the dress again, but I will never go through that neighborhood again. You walk through and the people, then they see that stupid little girl going. Anyway, and in the gymnasium, I got involved with the athletics, and that is, I think, that play a tremendous role in my character and my life. Because if you want to come first, you have to practice. To practice and practice better than the other person is practicing. So I gave a few years of those, in spite of my mother's, the girls, they don't go to the arenas to run and be in front of people, show. But my dad said no. My dad let me go. And I didn't want to worry my mother. So I tell her, Mom, I know how to sew, how to knit. I saw her that I could do all these things because she really dedicated her life. Those women anyway, they got the pleasure out of it. The pleasure of the creation of these human beings. I don't think she missed many things, my mother, because she had, because of the position of my dad, she had the respect of the society. She had her Sunday dress, and it was a good-looking lady, and it will appear with my dad, so she was happy for that. We managed to make her unhappy sometimes because she used to have a little cabinet that she will put the sweets, and my oldest brother had learned to take the whole back of this cabinet, take the sweet and eat it. So, of course, Andreas grew up, we were the others younger.
Next.
And it was courambies. It's a cookie covered with white sugar,
Powder sugar.
powder sugar. So I went and I took one, and my mother sees me not stealing, but she saw something in me. Έφαγες κουραμπιέ. You ate your κουραμπιέ. Said, me? No, mommy, no. Τι είναι αυτό? What you know, the sugar powder. I remember that. Yes, and well, then the time came, you become a teenager, and there it was the problem that the girls, they couldn't just go out alone. They had to be escorted by their brother. And my dad managed to have enough of them. So always we had someone. And let me tell you, I don't regret it. It was lovely because what I wanted to do to flirt and dance, I did it.
My brother was there. Did you get in any trouble?
I did. Of course, now the other thing is coming. That my brothers, they had very lovely friends. Good looking friends. But a friend, he was not allowed to touch his friend's sister.
That's a shame.
Oh well, that was a very nice excuse. When the sister does not have dowry. Many very nice people. Beautiful, but because we had no dowry. What does mean dowry? You have to have a house. First of all, you don't meet alone the groom. The parents decide, oh well, he has a lovely job, he's a good looking, he has a mother, exorcismeni.
What does that mean?
Well, and the mother, they have educated him, given all that, he should take something. You should be able, you get married, to have a house furnished, and the husband, he will provide the food. So you stay home and you raise the family. That's what was all behind it. Well, I was not going. And then radiofono, and then the radio came. And I hear about another world, USA. Women can vote. And that became my big dream. That became my a new life.
Well,
But did she have the dream of, but you just said that from that time on, you
Well, she-
knew about them, you wanted to come to America?
Yes.
And I always thought that Raja was the first time that you...
No, my dear.
That's-
So you knew you wanted to.
Wait a minute now, because
well, let's see.
I knew that I could get a scholarship. We had a family, Mr. and Mrs. Peskin, and said to me, you know, you can send an application in Harvard and tell them that you finish the academy with excellence and that you want to go to America to μετεκπαίδευση. How do we say this like in
Further
English?
your education?
Further education.
To further education. And that was it. And I was accepted. And they would not allow me to go because I would not have the brother with me.
Who, your parents?
Yes. Yeah. And then that year, my sister-in-law lost her father. My brother, the late brother, could not escort her to Thessaloniki. She was from Salonika, and they asked me to go with her to escort her. And another, I won't say anything. And I did go there, and while I was walking in the square of Thessaloniki, two guys come behind us. And it was Roger and Lamana and another Italian. And they were from the Sixth Fleet.
You're
But
Americans.
we didn't know. I didn't know that they were sailors. and we were looking at a vitrina, you know, at that Katastima in Athens. And they come behind me. The Lamana, one of them, he was more good looking than Roger. And he goes with Tula. He wanted Tula,
Who was married to her brother?
who was married to Brahma.
To Andreas.
Yes.
Andreas. Okay.
And they say, Tula, he was saying, I said that I want to go to America because I was learning
You said
English. Yeah. We start talking with the guys, that's and the very little English that I knew, I said I like to go and study in America. And he started saying, where Boston? I am from Boston. Roger says, I am from Boston. I can help you. Lamana wanted to go with Tula. Tula was a very good looking woman, my sister-in-law. And Jenny, she said, now, don't say that I'm married.
Uh-oh.
It was a lovely afternoon. We went out, and with the little English that I knew, the four of us, civilized, damn it, and we had a little wine, and then you could take a boat and go across and come back in Thessaloniki. And I see the people, the women, who is these women that they are going with the foreigners? They would not let me sit next to them.
On the boat?
Because we were with these foreigners. Anyway, we come back, the time it was about 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock. And what happened, my heels, because Sunday you dress up to go up and down, you know, the main street. And in one moment Roger said, oh, don't worry, I'll lift you. And who knows who saw that and called her brother.
Uh-oh.
He lifted you.
Roger.
But I was with
Tula.
Tula.
Okay.
The poor kid didn't do anything, I didn't do anything. But they saw that the guy had me like this. If I want to do something, I will go in front of everybody. Παιδιά μου, and we go home. And if you sing τα χαστούκια that Tula, my sister-in-law, had is unbelievable. And I was told I cannot go inside, I can sleep on the ground.
From her brother and her mother?
Nikos.
Or just her brother?
Nikos.
Oh, yeah?
Or from her brother.
At Nikos'
Well, not
house.
home in Athens.
No.
That's underneath.
And anyway, παιδιά, it was a horrible experience. But separating from Roger, I gave him my address because I know Mrs. So-and-so in Boston who has a house only for girls, for foreign girls, no men. I said to him, right in my house. And I mean, how I dare to do this. And we returned, and my brother had received the letter from Roger. I trusted you to go with my wife. And με πείτε να μας ξεφτυλίσετε. You went to do these horrible things and you have no idea the humiliation. And of course we had this from him. Even though I had a daddy, the boys had the we know what to do. We know what the girls are doing.
The fleet was moving.
Right.
So when they met the girls, their ship was in Salonika.
Right.
Later on, when it went to Athens, they went to find them. So
You see?
how
And I call my sister Mina
Right.
and I tell her, please call and say that they need me at the σχολείο in my job because I was working then.
no,
And we left them by me giving the address at Roger. And he writes a letter, for the beautiful night that they had, the beautiful wine, and that was all honest to God.
Why did he write that to you or to your parents?
To me, but they opened the letter.
Okay.
Private.
I got it.
Why I'm repeating this, because I will tell you in a minute. They come to the home to seek us, okay? And my brother goes and says, this is, I am here, husband Tula, I'm her husband, Jenny is my sister, and the girls cannot go alone, not be escorted by us. Meanwhile, my dad comes. When they saw that there were not two elites, there were not two horrible people, why don't you ask the people to come and sit down and give a lemonade? My dad and my mom say, this is my house.
She saw me once more.
They are going to sit down because she understood what I went through for that. So, one night you thought that you are dying, you want to die, and the next day it was like something that they pay me back, that your choice. They were, nice people. Parenthesis also, Gabriel. You marry one of them. Not dowry. Well, we went out. Yakos, he was at work. He was my dad, Rolandos, and Yanni was too young to come with us, and we all went out for a glass of wine.
With
The
the
whole
two boys,
family,
with the two men.
with the two men. And then we start corresponding. And a year and a half later, we were married. But I have lovely letters. And my dad, when he proposed to me, he said, I want to take Jenny for a walk. And my dad said, well, she has to have her brother. And Rolaki comes. Rolly comes with me. What, are you going to μου δώσεις καραμέλες? You are going to give me candy so I don't say anything? I'll be with you. And Roger gave me the ring that night.
Oh, wow.
Have you seen him in between? You said you corresponded.
Oh yes, he came. He had Christmas with us.
Oh, Jenny.
Wow.
He had Christmas with us. And Roger was the instigator to make the boyfriend of my sister to marry, because Roger was 25 and Dimitri was 30. But because he has sisters that they are not married, he had to wait for the sisters, βέβαια. And of course he was engaged with Mina, but then Dimitri became a very successful engineer. Well, we went out. Yakos, he was at work. He was my dad, Rolandos, and Yanni was too young to come with us, and we all went out for a glass of wine.
With
The
the
whole
two boys,
family,
with the two men.
with the two men. And then we start corresponding. And a year and a half later, we were married. But I have lovely letters. And my dad, when he proposed to me, he said, I want to take Jenny for a walk. And my dad said, well, she has to have her brother. And Rolaki comes. Rolly comes with me. What, are you going to μου δώσεις καραμέλες? You are going to give me candy so I don't say anything? I'll be with you. And Roger gave me the ring that night.
Oh, wow.
Have you seen him in between? You said you corresponded.
Oh yes, he came. He had Christmas with us.
Oh, Jenny.
Wow.
He had Christmas with us, and Roger was the instigator to make the boyfriend of my sister to marry, because Roger was 25 and Dimitri was 30. But because he has sisters that they are not married, he had to wait for the sisters, βέβαια. And of course he was engaged with Mina, but then Dimitri became a very successful engineer. Very, very successful. Got enough money to give to his sisters, ugly sisters. Two of them. That's right.
Rich ones, though.
Jota was not, but you should see.
The other one, I don't know
Yes.
the other one, I never met
You
the
have
other one, I
not
only
seen-
met
Oh,
Jota.
Jota was married. She got married.
Who?
Jota got
Jota?
married.
Oh, that's the one who
If
just
she's-
died
Yes,
recently.
yes.
But you see, my dad and my mother, my dad had come to America. I mean, okay, we're two visitors. We cannot see, maybe you know other girls to go out. It is not that they came to a house of prostitution. You understand?
Yes.
So anyway, we corrected. Okay, now what we are saying?
Something.
Wait a minute now, because the problem, Tora, is he has proposed to marry my parents. They said we want also to write to your mother, to your parents, and we want them to know that you are doing this. And he was the only child. And Roger went home, talked to his parents, and waiting for that letter. I remember my mother sitting in the house had staircase, and I was walking downhill coming to here, and she was sitting. She was holding something in her hand, and I wrote, and I knew, that his parents, they gave the blessing, and also Andrea used to work for the American Embassy it was at Mima that it will help, because he spoke English and French, Andreas. So he had a position, a clerk, nothing big. And it seems he talked to other people. Do you know about this man? And then, of course, we learned that he was an officer in the Navy. So, and to be a supply officer, you are not a cleftist, you are not a thief, you're of a good character. But it will be good if you also ask him to give you the name of his neighbor and write to them. And my dad did it, because you see, where are you sending your kid? Where are you sending?
Right.
So that's it. That's enough. I got tired now.
This is my ticket to come to this country.
To come
Wow, look
from
at those.
Deutschland.
It looks.
No, I came in 1961, March 25th
March 25th.
is the day I arrived in New York City
Right.
with the boat. I was 11 days on the water.
On the water, yeah.
Yep, I came by myself, yep. I remember when I left my house early that morning, 2 days prior, because I had to go all the way up north to Bremerhaven. And all the neighbors, they were waving at me, goodbye. They got up early to see me with my mother to the train station. Now, how I actually got to do that, how it got to the point for me to come here, is I had met a girl in a youth group club, and we were meeting every Monday. And it turned out she was not far from where I lived, but she worked in Mossbach, And she had relatives in Buchen where my godmother lived, and I used to go quite often there. And one day, her relatives had called her to say, there is a girl in America that wants to come home and the people want a replacement for her. They would pay the fare and everything. So they called Christina, but that's the
That's her
name
name.
of my friend. Maybe she wanted to do it. So, she took it, we talked about it. She said to me, what would you do? I said, well, you're not working at home. You are house matron in the store here. What difference does it make? Why don't you go? So she said, would you come? I said, I probably would. But more or less I tried to tell her that to give her courage. So she left in June of 1960. She came earlier.
Okay.
And then she really looked for a job for me as a au pair, Kindermädchen. Today they use the word au pair, make it
Right.
sound better, right?
Right.
And so I didn't have the guts to say, I'm not coming. I mean, I told her, I would do it if I was you. So now I had to do it. So I got things going and I had a job when I came here. And I did it. Yeah, and that was in March 1961. And I didn't know how to say one word in English.
Nothing, huh?
No, but the people I worked for, they were Jewish. In Rockville Center. And they both spoke German. They were from
Rheinland maybe.
nee, aber von Norddeutschland, aber nur Scandinavia, von there they were.
Von Denmark?
Uh-huh, yeah. And they had a jewelry stop in New York. Yeah. So that's where I was.
Yeah.
I needed a sponsor, so in case I don't work, I wouldn't ask for the government to support me. So somebody, Christina's aunt, sponsored me.
So you were 19, you said,
Yeah,
And
I was
then-
19
Yeah.
when I came here.
when you came.
Yeah. And I mean, it was nice. I had a nice room. I had everything, room and board. Plus I was making $40 a month. I had paid my own fare.
Oh.
I did not have them pay me.
Oh,
I said, I will pay my own fare in case I don't like it, I can go back.
Right.
And the first thing I did, I put every penny that I had, it was only 200 marks, let's say, so a couple of months, and I had the money in case I wanted to go back. Yeah, so, but I was very homesick. Yeah, and I remember I used to put the German music station on the radio, and it was always around supper time. And here I was crying like crazy. She used to say, Mrs. whatever her name was, why you put the music on if it bothers you that much? They can understand if you left your home for, and then you are completely a
right.
stranger. And
That's
so
right.
it was hard, very hard.
Yeah.
But I was so stubborn, I would have,
Gone back.
if I was so stubborn, I would have gone back the first 6 months. But I said, no, I'm going to try to stay the whole year because I said so. Out of spite, I did not go back because I told them I will stay at least a year. And everybody had told me, no, you're not going to leave your mother for a whole year alone. And out of a whole
your
year
mother
is
only
53 years
in
now.
her life.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how long it took. I mean,
Yeah.
I have been back many times.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, through my husband that worked for the Pan American Airlines. I had,
Privileges.
chance to go and I used it. We used it, both of us.
4
To Greece
times a
every year. We went to Germany every year. And in between I would go for a long weekend. I kept in touch with everybody. And still, I used to go by, because they never knew when I was coming. Because I was on standby, you did not I could not tell them I'm on that and that flight because I didn't know if I make it. So I would take the train, from the airport to the train station, and then and there was a woman that I met every time I walked home from the train station. Her son went to school with me, Frau Brauch. And she would look at me and she said, "Are you coming or going?"
I know.
That's how she would stay in front of me.
Yeah.
"Are you coming or going?" "Do they know you're coming?" "No." But then after a while it was no more, It just happened, that's it. So I was privileged in that sense that I, really could,
You were able to go there a lot.
with the kids and,
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and of course, then I met Roland 2 months after I was here.
And neither one of you spoke English.
Neither. Well, he spoke a few words, but he also spoke a few words German,
Oh.
especially music. So,
So that's what did it.
yeah.
He sang.
But
to you.
when I met him the first time, I have to tell you that it was a Friday night. Crystal called me and said, "Why don't you come?" She also worked in Rockwell Center, just a few blocks away from me. "Why don't you come over? We watch TV." Okay. I had curlers in my hair. And I went to her house, and every so often she would run to the window. I said, "What the heck you running to the window for every time?" "Oh, Pat." She was already dating a guy that she had met through Roland. So all of a sudden she says, "Okay." She said, "He's here now. Let's go downstairs, we're going out." I said, "What do you mean we're going out? I have curlers in my hair. I can't go out." "Who's downstairs?" "Pat." She didn't tell me who was downstairs other than Pat. And then it was Roland. This
Not
guy. Huh? He was there too, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But Roland was driving and it was raining. He had a coat on, skinny.
Really cool.
Anyway, she made me sit in front with him and she sat in the back with Pat.
And you still had the rollers in your hair.
No, I had taken them
Oh, you
off.
took them out, okay.
But I wasn't prepared to go out,
Yeah. Yeah.
So we go 2 blocks. There's a red light. We stop. The car wouldn't start.
Oh no, of course.
So don't go out, trying to fix it. Roland knew a lot about the car. They got it going. We go to the next light, the same thing. We stop, we can't start the car again. We ended up in Hempstead somewhere, 2 o'clock at night, in a garage to fix the car. Well, and there was all black guys there.
2 o'clock there are people who could work.
2 in the morning.
In Hempstead, yes.
In the morning, 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock in the morning. That's how long we were put,
Well,
we were actually
but-
quite a few hours at the gas station and he tried to fix it but he couldn't. He said he needed a part. So this guy took us all home, all 4 of us. Was a very nice black man, really. First us girls because we lived very close and wherever Pat and Roland lived at the time, he dropped them off. And the next day was Sunday, but I think, no, it was Saturday because it happened Friday night. And then the next day, I guess they went and picked up the car. He did, Roland did. And that was our first outing. We didn't even have a coffee.
Right. So you ended up in a garage.
In a garage, yeah.
Okay.
Waiting.
That was your first date.
And I said, "Oh boy."
So when did you see each other again?
I guess a few days later, the following week, because I didn't have during the week I didn't really go out, at least in the beginning I didn't. And then we went out a couple of times with Crystal and Pat. And then we went out a few times by ourselves. And in May or June was when I met Jenny on a Sunday. He says, "We're going to my sister's house." I had high heels and a dress on, like you're supposed to be on a Sunday, right? And they told us to go with them on a boat. I'd never been in a boat, a little boat. I never had shorts on, and I never had sneakers on.
Oh, wow.
And I had to put that on in order to get in, to go in the boat.
Oh, yeah, you can't wear
How did
high
you find
heels.
them?
and-
From her. She told me to go upstairs in Levittown in the house, and she gave me, I think she even gave me a bathing suit
Bathing suit.
with a, yeah, and a pair of shorts. I didn't have.
And I go back. And how did I like Helga? She was neat. You couldn't see her underpants, nothing.
See
I
what
mean, my underpants. And I was so surprised. She's such a lovely girl. Neat. She has everything there.
And I felt,
Yeah, and that started.
I was so ashamed to be seen in that shorts and sneaker. I never had a pair of pants, long pants.
Yeah.
So all this,
Oh, on a Sunday, you.
especially on this. And another thing that really had impressed me, I went to the store in Rockwood Center, and I wanted a dress for Sundays. So I went in and I said, I'm looking for a dress, a Sunday dress. I guess they never had heard of a Sunday dress. In Germany, if you go, then, today this doesn't happen anymore, but then, if you went to the store and you said you wanted a Sunday dress, they knew exactly what you
Something
wanted, you know,
different.
something nice, nothing, you know.
Yeah.
She comes with all this open, you know, I mean, cocktail dresses as a Sunday dress. And I needed a slip also, and I didn't know what the slip is for underneath. They
Yeah.
couldn't understand, so I walked out and store. It was not a big store. It was a small store I could walk to from the house
Oh, okay.
where I was.
Okay.
So anyway, that are some of the you know, experiences that you get. But I did learn English, and of course then when I met Roger and Jenny, Roger used to correct me all the time if I didn't say something correctly, which was very good because
Well,
this way
you
I
learn
learned.
quickly.
That's right, yeah. But I haven't lost my my accent. Every time I go somewhere, when I open my mouth, where are you from?
Yeah.
From New York? No, we don't mean that.
Before that,
And you've lived here longer than you lived in Germany.
19 years, we was at 53.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it was. Story of my life. Had kids, 3 kids.
What was it like raising them in a different country?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we didn't have Pampers yet then.
No, we were washing.
But we had wash machine in the house.
Yeah.
So, you
But it was
know.
all cloth, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it
and
was
I
all-
used to iron them because I didn't have a dryer, so to be nice and soft. It was not easy with 2 kids, but it was easy enough because, in a sense, today you cannot use 1 spoon for 2 mouths. I used 1 spoon for both of them. I want one and another one, or if Roland happened to be there, he would feed one and I would feed the other. But most of the time I was alone. So, you know, you get a jar, when the jar was finished, you open another one. You don't feed one, put the spoon down, get another spoon.
Yeah.
Oh, today you cannot feed it, from what I understand, I don't know. I mean, they are so careful with
with
how to,
germs and
with the
stuff.
germs and, I mean, not that I mean, I was careful, but,
I mean,
you
for a
know.
twin, that it was in the
Yeah,
same
okay.
stomach.
Yeah, it's
you know, I
not a
mean,
big deal.
that's, and, I mean, I don't know what it means or meant to have 1 child. I never had only 1 child. I had 2, I had 3 in 1 year. So, you know, not, and I think the fact that they were 2 from the beginning, they kept each other company. You see, I mean, and I had them without with the playpen. Because you couldn't leave them alone and work and cook and clean and iron and wash. I mean, you can't do that. And you have to have a routine.
Yeah.
And otherwise, you can't do it. So, and then a year later, Mariana came and
But your mother also came.
my mother came, yeah. My mother came after I had come home from the hospital with the twins. One day. The next day she came, and then she came again when Mariana, before I had Mariana. She came. Mother was helping Mina
That's right.
at the store sometimes.
At the store.
Potato salad and
Right.
stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Where was Mina's store?
In
Was in Franklin Square.
Valley Street.
I mean Valley Stream, yeah.
Yeah.
But before that they had another place she worked. When they lived before they moved into the house in Valley Stream, they lived somewhere else.
I had my first Thanksgiving with her when I came to this country.
And how her name was Mina.
How? That was
That's her name. Well, I have made a home here and it's been pretty good. I mean, we had our ups and downs, but all in all, I don't regret that I never went home after a year, even though I wanted to go. The first year that I came, I wanted to go back in July, and Roland talked me out of it.
Well, you said you were crying all the time, right?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Well, once I got, to know him, I didn't cry that much anymore. But I was always homesick. I really
So
was
you met
always
him?
homesick.
Yeah.
Soon after
I'm
you
still
came.
today homesick,
You're
believe
still
it or not.
homesick?
Yeah.
You're still home.
You
Yeah.
met soon
But you go
after,
every year.
after you came. You
What?
met Roland.
2 months later,
So you met him in July? Or June?
May.
May. Oh, May. Okay, you got here March.
2 months. The one and the only. So,
Yeah. And
I
when
guess
did you
I
get
was-
married? Oh,
July the following year.
really?
July is the month.
It
The
is the
kids
month.
were
The kids
born
were
in
born-
July.
And that was when? What year?
What year?
62.
Okay, right, so you came in 61.
63, the boys were born. Yeah, we only wanted the justice of the
Did you
peace.
have a wedding? I don't
No.
remember.
No, he was married before, so we couldn't get married in the church.
Uncle Rolly,
I lived in sin all these years.
Uncle Rolly was married before.
Yeah.
But he didn't get a divorce from,
Oh, he did.
so you could marry.
Yeah, but he had a waiting period. He got divorced and then he had to wait. I don't remember how long, but
And
we.
then sit in that.
Yeah. Is that still on?
Yeah.
Oh.
You're still rolling.
I think that's enough for today too. You can turn that on.
Oh, okay.
I remember the siren, hearing the siren, and we had to go in the basement, the cellar, and we had the gold space to go in the house next door. And I remember going through that into the neighbor, and we were waiting out, but we were never bombed. We were never bombed, and that's all I know from the war. Other than my father didn't come back until 46. 46 that he came back because he was a prison. That's all my knowledge of the war.
I was 6 years old when the war started, and I remember the day. It was the 1st of September 1939. And I was looking out the bedroom window, and here come the army marching down the street, and there was a little boy from my class, and he was wearing a uniform and a flag, very proud, the Nazi flag, and they were going down by our house. And that I remember from that day. But then living close to the French border, and it was just across the river where we lived. They were bombarding us constantly, you know, because they, and then we had to evacuate first, and we went to my mother's hometown in Hildesheim, and we had to leave everything behind. And then we stayed there, and my mother, my father, Ursula and I. Ursula was 4 years younger. And we heard all the atrocities that were happening at the border, French border. And we came back. The house was still there, but everything was in disarray. We were gone maybe a year, 1.5 years, yeah. And I went to school up there. That's where I learned English. In Bad Salzdetford, Hildesheim. Yeah,
Where your mom? Okay. Where she's
where
from.
my mother is from. And then we came back. And then the good old war started there, because they constantly bombarded us. Because of the coal mines and the steel mills. You know, we had those steel mills that people worked in, and the coal mines. And my father did his business again, butcher store. And he was busy. And I helped in the store. I was the cashier. I was about 10, 11. They put an apron on me. So I was standing right in front of the cash register. But it was not the new ones, you know, where you just press a button and you say, oh, it's $100 and no, it's $50 and you get so and so much back, 50 back. No, you have to count it out. And we had this old-fashioned cash register. And I knew how to work it. I knew how to work it, yes. So that's what I was doing. First, I remember my sister's birth. She was born in 1937. That was before the war. And I remember my mother being pregnant, and they were promising me a little Peter, because my father's name was Peter. And every night I put sugar on the windowsill for the stork, because the stork was bringing the baby, right? And then I was so disappointed when I had a sister rather than a Peter. And then they said, well, but you name the child. And at that time, ich wünsch mir eine kleine Ursula.
Hellblond, mit blauem Augenpaar. That song came out about Ursula, yeah?
Sie soll nicht größer als
ein Püppchen sein,
dann leg ich sie ins Püppenbettchen rein.
Ja.
Und mit uns freut uns dann gewiss Papa, ich wünsch mir eine kleine Ursula. So, and I adored her. And she was put on my lap. And I had to take care of her. I was poor. She was cute. And that bond still exists, you know, with her. And what else do you want to know? Oh, and then my father had to go to war in 1942. And we didn't close the store. We had boys, butcher boys
help us, yeah.
helping us. And my mother kept the store open, but not until he came back. He only came back in 1947. And during that time we had some bombings again. I remember one night we were in the basement again, like you say, and the church steeple was ringing 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was 5 and the bell fell down, because it was melting from the heat. But it rang the bell 5 times for the 5 o'clock in the morning.
Even though it was melting?
It was melting. And then I saw it coming down.
Miracle, huh?
Yeah, coming down, I tell you. And school, we didn't have school. Also,
you know,
school
if there was,
bombed out.
the sirens went on, I mean, they wouldn't send you to school, or, you know.
Yeah, and then the,
Many days were missed from school at the time. Not with me, because but my,
Yeah, you were-
you know, I know that this had happened.
yeah, but I always wanted to come to America, because I always felt I would be safe. I don't know why. So ever since I was 10, I was hoping we would go to America. And then I remember that the Americans came in their big tanks. They came to through our town. And they took all our bicycles,
Cameras, everything.
everything, watches. The officers wore watches all the way out.
They could go to the houses and just ask
And just-
for anything that they would just take it.
Yeah.
That's what they were
So
allowed
then
to do.
they were running over the bicycles, over our dolls and everything. The banks were all kaput, you know, they put the money on the banks, and we as children would go and find the pennies and whatever, and we thought we were rich, you know. But it was all, the money was gone. And we
Sure.
then were under French occupation after the war. That was another thing I remember, when the tanks came up from Normandy, because Normandy is not far
Far
from
from you,
us.
sure.
Because there's Luxembourg, there's Belgium, there's Holland, and they came through the,
Channel there.
through the English Channel.
Everything is very close by. I mean,
Yeah.
Europe, you know, the countries are very small.
Very small.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and then we spent some time in my father's hometown. He came from a small town in the mountains near Trier.
Trier?
Near Trier.
That's where you were born, right?
Yeah, I was born there.
And what
But then
town
his-
was he from?
He was from Britain. Britain was his town's name. And then we had a summer house there in the mountains with the deer running around, so I'm
I like
surrounded.
here, you feel like home.
Like home. Uh-huh. So that was my life. And then my father started again the business when he came back from the war. And I was helping there. I was, you know, always working in the store.
Jobs were very rare after that, you know. I mean, there was work to be done, but it was mostly factories and stuff like that. That the Italians, we imported, not imported, but Italian people came because we didn't have enough men to work. So they came as Gastarbeiter.
Oh, because they died during the war? Or?
Yeah.
Sure.
And so they filled with the Italian guys, they filled the factories to produce whatever. So there were jobs available, but not in a sense
The
that,
Germans were
you know,
gone. They were dead.
you had to know already what to do.
But you're talking after the war.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it,
1960, okay? We were always going to concerts when we could in the town. I went every year to see my parents too, when I stayed here. And after a year I said, I'm not gonna stay in this country, here. I didn't want America.
you came what year?
1960,
60, like
60.
Crystal. She came in the summer.
yeah.
Peter, explain to us what did you see that you didn't like and
Yeah.
you wanted to leave?
It was different. I didn't see any culture here. There was no culture, you know. My mother always made sure she took us to places that we learned something. And I found that I didn't see that here. Where would I go, you know? So I said, no, I don't like it here. And the people I got to know were not that friendly. The Americans were not friendly towards Germans at that time. they were still harboring their thoughts of the war. They said, you know, even the Germans that were here, they would never say were Germans because of the war. And so I found it also difficult working. I worked in an office, and when I worked for people that really didn't like the Germans, they would really let me know. They would say to me, bring me a cup of coffee, you know. Or he would be very, very nasty to me. But then I got other jobs, and then I worked for BMW, which is a German
Company anyway.
And so it was much better. And other people became better. And I became also more. But the first year, I went back home with the intentions to stay back home. And when I went back, I looked around, I saw the small streets, no lights at night, right? It was different than here. Everything was, you had so much to see. Then I found out that there are nice clothing here, not in Germany, you know. And for $3 you could get a dress or a blouse, you know, and stuff like that.
Well, because then the dollar was
Oh,
4.25
yes, for
to
one.
one German mark.
No,
you
the other
could
way
get from
around.
one, the other way around.
$4.25 marks for $1.
$1, right,
Yes.
right.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that was a lot
The
of
money.
money. And then I bought myself a car here, which it made me independent. You know, I came back, I said to my mother and father, they had given up the store already. I said, I'm not staying here, I'm going back to America. And then I came back, and the rest is history. And I met Monsieur Taki in 1964 through your mother, and I had my mail sent to Mina in
Mina Bob
in Valley
in
Stream.
Valley Stream.
Valley Stream.
And I said to my two girlfriends, two German girls, let's go and I find my mail at this woman, at Mina. Okay.
And where's the one you found your mail?
And then I go and found my mail.
Sorry.
How things work out though sometimes, you
And
know.
then we're arriving, and there is a car in front of us parked. I knew my way in Valley Stream. I said, and then I see Mina's house, and I see somebody knocking at the door, and nobody comes to answer.
Because she was in the back.
Yeah. So I said to my three girlfriends, I said, this is a hold-up. This one is the getaway car. And
And the robber's ringing the doorbell.
The robber was my
his
cousin and
her
Helga's husband.
My husband and he.
Yeah. So now I said, wait a minute. I went up to the door and I said to Rolly, I didn't know him. I said, what are you doing here? He got so scared. You know how Rolly got scared? He says, I'm picking up my mother-in-law, he goes. That's Helga's mother.
My mother.
I said, well, there must be in the back of the house. So I walk in the back of the house, and sure enough, they didn't hear him ring the bell. So they all come out. Us three girls walk in,
Roland walked
walked
in.
in, and he started to talk to the girls, and he forgot about the getaway car. So all of a sudden he says, oh, my cousin is in the
He's outside
is
waiting
outside
for me.
waiting for me. And your mother is there.
Well, we went to pick up her mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then he says, oh, let me go get him. He went to pick up Taki outside, and Mina was busy. So I went to the door, and I looked at him.
And she asked, open the door.
I opened the door,
Act
and
to
I
trust
said, what's your name? No, you said, I'm Tacky.
You introduced
And I said,
yourself.
I'm Mariana. So he says, I'm Tacky. And he asked me, and where do you work? He didn't want to ask for my phone number in front of everybody, you know. So I work at Butler and Smith or wherever I worked at the time. And he came in. And I said, this is the man I'm going to marry. I said that. And your mother started talking about him in German. So
Well, she knew that there
she
was
knew the story. So then Helga's mother is starting to give me his story in German. I had my 2 girlfriends with me, and everybody else was German. So she's talking in German to me about him. He didn't know. And he says, well, he's married, he has a child, and but the marriage is going this way, that way, you know, one way she's there and the other day she's not. I said, I don't care.
We were
I
personally
wouldn't
not
want to,
at the
I
time.
have nothing to do with him, nothing. So, but he had my phone number now, right, from the office. But Monday morning,
I didn't have your phone number.
oh,
I
you
had
had
the
to
name,
get, you
and I
had the
found the
name,
phone
you
number.
found Sergeant Seymour. Monday morning, you know, they still had those old telephone operators, and I was the first one in the office there. I worked for the boss of the company, and I see the girl switching, you know how they used to switch those things from one phone to the other, and I was sitting right there, and she's there. So I get a call. She says to me, Marianne, you have a call. It's a guy, she says to me. So I picked up. It's Tacky. I said, yeah, what do you want? I'll pick you up tonight for dinner. I said, no, you're not. I don't want to see you. You're married. I want nothing to do with you. And, okay, well, guess what? He was in front of the office that night, and he took me out for dinner. He just showed up.
May I correct? Because that is not correct.
Now, who's telling the truth?
I called. Now wait a second.
It's a matter of memory.
Yeah, I called and I said I would like to see you. I know where your office is. I can come and pick you up from your office when the time you finish, 5 o'clock, whatever. And he says, come, but don't come to my office. Go to the entrance of Pennsylvania Station on 6th Avenue, whatever it is.
8th Avenue.
8th Avenue, whatever. And I said, but don't come in front of the office. I said that. And that's where I went and you came and met me. And then we had a good time. No, very pleasant. On 5th Avenue, and we are talking to each other like we know
We knew each other forever.
It was the first, as you said, you saw
Yeah,
it.
but I felt the same. Listen, why did I ask for the? Because immediately I said, I have to see her. So
Oh, that
then
was
we
my
went to
story.
a little half basement lounge, and we had a drink, and then we went to the restaurant to have dinner, and then I took her home. And
I lived in Flushing then.
Helga's mother knew this German couple.
Minapo.
In Mina.
Okay.
And they had a delicatessen
Right.
someplace.
In Valley
Around the
Street.
In
corner
Valley
from
Street.
where they lived.
Mariana knew them wherever. I think she was helping at the store.
Mina in the store.
Yes, she was helping at the store. Okay, this being as it is, I come back from Greece, and you had a get together
At your house.
at your house then. And where
I was not there, I was in Greece.
No.
I was in Greece when this happened for a visit.
Right, I know. But you were still there
You are there.
at the house.
I can
because-
see it.
Yeah.
And we sit there talking, and all of a sudden Roy says, I have to go and pick up my mother-in-law. And I could have, and he wanted to go by himself. But then I said, I'll come with you, and we can keep on talking. And that's how we happened to go there, and we came back to your house.
I'm confused.
Yeah, I was living in near Valle Stream by the couple, I forget now, the elderly couple that we had actually moved.
Spanagles.
Panago, yeah. See, she remembers.
Because I think the two bases, the Greek background and Tito the Orimilikia, which means he was in the right age to come to another country, Takuli, and to pick up the best you could of this country. But you gave to this country, I feel.
Jenny, thank you very much. I think I did. In my field, I was lucky. I didn't have any negative influences. I was living in a neighborhood that was not the richest in the world, but it was well to do business in the place. We were the poorest, but no one knew it. I got in my mind right away to go to school. That was imprinted in my mind. And the moment I could, when I became 16, 17 years old, I started preparing to go to university, which was extremely difficult. And for some reason I decided to go to the technical school, which was 10 times more difficult than the university. In my last year, the occupation ended, we had a big problem with the communists, we didn't finish the year until the end. So I lost 1 year trying to go to school. I only had a few months to prepare, I failed. So I took another year to prepare, and I got in. To give you an idea, there were 2,000 candidates who took the exam for only 25 positions. I was number 11.
Wow.
Well, I was born in 1927. Before me, they had another boy who died when he was 2 months old. And immediately after that, had me. So I can tell you, first of all, my father's father was a priest. And he was a priest in Githio, which is a town in southern Greece, which is outside of Sparta. It's like the port of Sparta from the ancient days. There is something interesting there that I think has affected my father, so I'm going to mention it. He was a priest in one of the major churches, but outside of Githio there is an island, or just a very short distance outside of the town, of the port. And my grandfather used to go there to also operate on one church. I don't know how frequently. One Sunday that he arrived there, he found a newborn baby girl abandoned on the steps of the church. He took her and he ended up bringing her up. The interesting thing is that my grandmother, and this is the reason I mention this, my grandmother had already 6 or 7 children, and they all died. Immediately after he found the abandoned baby and he took it, they had another 6, 7 children, and they all lived.
Oh my God.
Whatever that means. But let's put it this way. My father was born in 1902.
Your father.
My father. And he was the second or third child. Anyway, they came to Athens. My mother, on the other side, was from the island of Andros. She was from a Lavdian family, they called Lavdas, and so they also had 6 or 7 children. For some reason, my grandfather from there, I have no reason why, he moved from Andros to Athens, and he was one of the 2 people that they had a tobacco store in Athens. I guess in those days, there were no cigarettes to buy. You only bought the tobacco and a piece of paper, and you rolled your own cigarette. And there were 2 of them. My grandfather, and the other one was Stratus.
Right.
Well, my grandfather, I guess, died, and Stratus went and he became the first and biggest cigarette maker in Greece. Hadn't my grandfather died, I would be a very rich man. Well, that's besides the point. Now, my mother had 2 sisters, and all 3 of them, including my mother, were seamstresses. At the time we are talking about now, my mother had in Plaka, in Odos Kodrou, which is off Kidathineon, right next to the church, which is a Byzantine church. And they were living there, and she had a business. She had 20 girls working for her.
Wow, it's a good size little company.
Yeah, you have to understand that in those days you could not go to a store and buy a dress or a suit. You have to go to a tailor or a seamstress for the women to have it done from the scratch. My father's sister, Evangelia, wanted to become a seamstress too. Unrelated, they didn't know each other. And somehow she went and she was working for my mother. And my father would go and pick her up and bring it there. And that's how he met my mother, and they got married. They must have married 1924, something like this. After I was born, and because I guess they didn't know why the boy died, they moved, my mother went down, they moved to another place nearby, the place from where I finally left years later. And she only had 1 or 2, 3 girls working. They come down. Vagelia was with us, and she was taking care. And that's how I grew up. My sister was born. Well, the war started.
What year was that for you when you say the war started?
The year, when it started for us was the 28th of October, 1940. 2 days ago was the anniversary or whatever.
2 days,
No.
2 weeks.
A week ago.
Right.
Today's the 4th of November.
I understand. So, and that was when the occupation began?
Well, no, this was at 12 o'clock at night. The ambassador of Italy knocked the door of the Greek Prime Minister and told him that they are going to invade Greece, and just say yes and let us come in. And the guy said no, which Greek is in Greek is Ochi. That's why 28th of October is still the Ochi day. Troops had already invaded when the guy went. The Greek general who was in charge of the troops that were stationed there in the Albanian border, he on his own went down, retreated a little to a river and waited for the Italians to come, and they never crossed the river. I will never forget that day. I mean, we found out about it, and everybody went out on the street and they were volunteering to go to the army. Really? And immediately they put together, and they started sending troops, and we pushed the Italians back. We took half Albania because Albania was occupied by them. And then we were running out of ammunition. If someone gave us ammunition, we would have continued. Then, as this was happening, the Germans came down and invaded. And, well, it was not easy during the occupation. We were starved. I escaped from real death 3 or 4 times. But what happened is that the Italians were guarding us at the time, and they were demonstrating against occupation out in the street. And all the demonstrations will go to Syntagma, some meal of the unknown soldiers, and then come down Metropolis to Metropolis. Now we are on the side streets, and in this particular case, the Italians came to chase the demonstrators, and the demonstrators went up the side streets. Mm-hmm. Now, we didn't know exactly what was happening. It was noon, and I was in my pajamas, which was usually open. Some people will go to the front house, and we will go to the back house. That's why the outside door was open. So my father told me it was noon, and I was in my pajamas. My father told me, go out and close the outside door.
Because of the
Because of
demonstrations?
Water going outside. Yes.
Right.
Well, when I got there, they already had broken the demonstration, and they were chasing the people up the street.
Right.
My street. I went to close the door, and all of a sudden I saw that the brother of a girl who lived in an apartment on the front building was running, and I'm sure he was caught. He was coming home, let's say,
right.
That was his half house anyway, and he got involved. So I waited for him to come. He ran into the door and closed it. And as I closed the door, I closed it on the face of an Italian soldier, practically.
Yeah.
Now, immediately they turned out and they started banging on the door to break it. I went up the steps to this guy's house, was right in front. So I thought they would take me in, but they didn't open the door. So before I knew, the Italians broke the door, and they found me there, and they grabbed me. Now, the fact that I'm in my pajamas, we didn't even think. Well, I yelled, and my father came out, also in his pajamas. We were just about to have lunch. So my father came out, and they arrested us both. They took us and they put us in a truck, covered, and they had arrested other people. And I'm pretty sure who would have, God knows what would have happened to us. Mm-hmm. I mean, executed or if you arrested like this, you never came back home. Mm-hmm. Well, my father spoke Italian, and an officer happened to be passing by, an Italian officer, who was not involved with what was going on And my father talked to him in Italian. And actually, he opened up the side of the tent on the truck because there was a cover. Whatever he told him, I don't know. But he goes and tells the guards, let these two go. The door was open, and all these people came in, and they arrested us. As it turned out, other people we did not know had come in, and we found one in our bathroom.
Hiding.
Yeah, he went in and got dressed
Oh
in
my
the
God,
bathroom.
really?
Yeah.
But my father must have told him, we're in our house, we're in our pajamas.
We live here.
How could we be demonstrators? They came in, and the guy understood it. But on the way from our house to the truck, which was parked a couple of blocks up, they had 2 or 3 soldiers were around each one of us, and others with guns in between. They were really guarding us and took us to the truck. And I would turn around to talk to my father, and an Italian soldier was hitting my back with his rifle. Okay, so this was one time that if
Close
it was
call.
for the Italian officer to come by, I wouldn't be here talking to you, for sure. The German was a different story. It happened earlier. Nothing was going on. I was walking in the street. Happiness is what one feels inside oneself. It doesn't have to do how, it doesn't have to do many things like this, how glorious you are. What counts is how feeling about yourself. I always thought that on anyone's deathbed, before he knows or she he was going, and looks back into life, he says, am I pleased? Have I done the best I could? And if you feel pleased, you go well and you'll be well. Then you have trouble, and God knows, maybe you're going to have future problems. Not only God knows. So, other than that, I don't know what to say. I thank you very, very much, and have a good life.
Yeah. Thank you,
Well,
Dad.
That is so wise.
Now I'm gonna cry.
The other thing was what? Then we came up with the sayings.
I cannot. I have drank a glass of wine. Who can top a lot of F?
That means that the good things are not necessarily, you can have a few and you have a very nice life.
Yes, you don't need all this
That's,
luxurious or overly overdone stuff.
now the other thing was what? Then we came up with the saying, within kako, amiyes kalu. It means that no matter how bad something happens, there is something good in there.
Take the dog.
That can come out of it. Basic thing,
Well, it's
not what we
it's a
discussed
cassette,
tonight.
it's not
But the one that is the most elementary, that goes down to the heart of the
Come with
universe.
me, get my
It's
key, where did you
Socrates.
put my pocketbook?
One thing I know,
Oh, it's open it.
I know nothing.
Μια στιγμή, σε παρακαλώ.
Oh,